thank you for having me. The talk, like we were just told, is called "The Wound is Where the Light Enters." And if you don't know, that's a Rumi quote. And a lot of his poetry has really been a reflection of my life in just profound ways. So check him out if you don't know. So I won't start from the very beginning. I'll start from the wound, and I think that that's where I can meet people the most is our suffering. And I'll weave in my history as I talk about the mother and wife version of me that I was living. Well, I'm still a mother, but living through like a decade ago. So I have 3 kids, a dog, a blue house with a white picket fence, and a husband. In my mind, we are the family that I always pictured I'd have. It's exactly the way that I wanted it to look. I worked in schools while I finished college, and I was privileged enough to be able to stay at home and work and go to school and finish. I graduated college. I loved being a mother. I loved my role at home, that traditional role that we all kind of think of when we think of mother. I loved cooking, grocery shopping, planning new healthy meals. I actually enjoyed doing chores. And I'll explain how I learned to enjoy chores later. But I love going to the library for story time and hanging out at parks with a picnic basket while the kids wore themselves out. I loved going to museums and outdoor concerts. I loved keeping up with the kids' busy lives, sports, all of the things. The nighttime routine was my favorite. Getting everybody fed and clean in bed around the same time every night, lights out, kitchen closed. I loved my mom routine. If it was possible, I would have stayed in that routine for the rest of my life. But there were consequences of staying in the relationship in that life. I would have stayed in that role to the day I died because I enjoy being a mother at home very much. And it's so bizarre how we as humans, just how we are. I don't know if you've ever had the experience of watching a friend battle addiction or watching a friend date somebody that you just know or everybody knows is not good for them. It's like our denial gets so extreme sometimes that we can't see the forest through the trees, the bigger picture. We're really caught up in the little arguments and anxieties of the days, and we lose focus of the larger picture. The root of the problem is always just one problem. You see, if you're addicted to alcohol and you're getting into arguments, your problem's the alcohol. That's the root. And when you fix that, things will change. What I'd like to argue is that it's just not people and their addictions that do this. I believe that we all kind of do this on some level with certain really difficult things in our lives. We ignore and suppress the difficult things so much so that we become apathetic, numb, and we go blind. I know you've seen those commercials about a room smelling and they say, oh, you went nose blind. The dysfunction becomes what we're used to. And so we go blind to it. So my trees, which would in this case would be the distractions, so I wasn't able to see the whole forest, was my weight, right? My weight, how I looked, how I felt about my body, how I was perceived, how people were looking at my body mattered to me. I wanted to be fit and thin, and I think that's part of the culture, right? So my body was one of the biggest trees. The tree standing next to it, blocking my vision, was this tree of productivity. How much am I performing? Am I a successful human? Am I being a good mom? Are there healthy meals in that lunchbox? Are we getting homework done? Are my kids doing well in school? How clean is my house? How organized can I be? How together can I be? That was my focus, my body and my productivity, the trees blocking the bigger picture. And, as social media, so this was a decade ago. So as social media became more of a part of our lives, I was caught up in that shame and compare game that I think that we all kind of get used to dealing on social. It's kind of like that thing that we do. Maybe we don't recognize it, like a lot of the things that we don't recognize. But while we're scrolling, looking, we're judging ourselves, we're judging others, we're comparing ourselves to others, we're doing this thing constantly. And so I was caught up into this world of social media, and in the fitness world, it's kind of a thing. So it's not all bad. So I made some lifelong friends in the community of women on the same fitness journeys through social media, through these communities online, and we ended up all kind of suffering in the same ways during this specific time in our lives. In the beginning, we would use Instagram to connect with each other. We would work out every morning, plan our meals, and we would take photographs of our meals and our us working out with our sweaty selfies so we could share and check in. And there was this genuine, authentic connection that was happening between the women. But as most things happen, it's this space started to get commodified, and we started to get marketed to heavily. And that's how diet culture works, right? It's not just diet culture, it's also industry and business pumping tons, billions and billions of dollars into these marketing plans that we were kind of blindly we were just in, and with no awareness. So inevitably, this space of community of women where we were sharing workouts and healthy meals and how we felt during the day became kind of a toxic place to be. The check-in photos got less spontaneous. Um, they became more filtered and staged. The meals that we used to post, with like chicken with sauce, like sloppy on the sides of the plate, or bad lighting, we would just post those, no big deal. All of a sudden, everything kind of looked like a Pottery Barn ad, like where you would have to clean your whole table, get a white plate, get a light, and then it turned in to we were all marketing. We were all marketers, marketing for companies without our awareness. And during this time, we started being very competitive with each other. It's this human nature of being in this space where these outside factors are being rewarded by attention. If we would post beautiful pictures, people would share them. You would get on someone's Instagram. You might win some money. It became about who was working out the hardest, who was eating the cleanest, who worked out for the longest, and who looked the best while they were doing it. Can you imagine? The space became toxic. I focused all of my energy and my attention in this space during a very difficult time in my life. So I was focusing my attention here, trying to be well, caught up in this thing. But there was a bigger issue looming in the background of these distractions, let me just say it. And so the wound is where the light enters, and for a reason. Something even bigger than just comparing my body to women on social media, or being judgmental of women or myself on social media. That was all a learning too. But something even bigger was revealed to me. So I was fit. I got to where I wanted to be. I was 40 pounds less. I could run 5 miles today, right now, run 5 miles. Sure, no problem. That was me. I could do burpees forever and jumping jacks for hours. I was checking things off my list during this time. I was extra productive. I woke up in the morning, made the kids lunch, prepped dinner, had all the laundry folded. I was being like that mom that I wanted to be. I slept solid, but I was having these debilitating, awful migraines. Like, and I know that a lot of people have experienced this, where you need to turn off the lights, because if you're not turning off the lights, then you're getting dizzy, you're getting sick, and you can't even have anybody's voices in your space because it rings in your head. So I ended up in the room a lot with the lights off, telling everybody to shh, 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 because I couldn't handle the pain of this migraine. So I looked fit, I looked healthy, but twice a week, I would feel this way, this awful, awful way. And I just couldn't put my finger on it. I drank more water. I stopped eating sugar, ate more carbs. Maybe I need more sugar, ate more protein, stopped drinking coffee. I stopped drinking coffee. And I don't know what coffee means to you, but to me, coffee is life. That's how bad my migraines were. I had to stop drinking coffee just to see, okay, maybe this is it. It wasn't it. It was bad. I exercise at different times of the day. I thought, maybe I need some yoga, a spiritual practice, something to stretch out my muscles. I felt so tense. My jaw was locked, my brow was furrowed, and I'd get these really constricting migraines that would make me clench into the ball. My muscles were tense. Maybe I just needed to relax, I thought. And then I thought, maybe this is stress. Light bulb, maybe this is stress. When I was when life is so predictable, or when life is unpredictable, I was always taught that having a routine can help you feel a sense of comfort. I've always been into spirituality. My mother created this environment for me. I'm half Black, I'm half Japanese. My mother grew up as a Buddhist seeker, so she would not qualify herself as a Buddhist now, but she's an artist and she's a Reiki healer. And so I grew up with her. She was single, an immigrant woman, and spirituality was just part of our lives. And so she was a single immigrant woman with no help from my father. Life was unpredictable. Life is unpredictable if you live in poverty. Things change in a dime, you know? My mom was a waitress. If she got sick, then our lives for the next month could be jeopardized. And so with a lot of people that live in poverty, um, you have to build something that's bigger than yourself, something that you could rely on because you can't rely on life. It's people without privilege stay emotionally and mentally well enough to continue living with joy and compassion and hope when they have a spiritual practice. So it was something that's always been embedded in me. And then that's kind of just got lost through having children, having to go to school, having to figure out work, how to pay bills, having to do all of those things, being a mother. My life got put on the back burner. What was important to me got put on the back burner. And then I was performing a role. It was not being, it was doing, and doing not so much for me, doing as in a performance so that I felt a sense of worth from my partner, from the culture and the society and the community that I lived in. So, as I said, my mother was a single mother. She left my abusive father when I was probably 5 years old. And she worked multiple jobs. She was gone from the morning until midnight. And we kind of just had to grow up by ourselves. And because my mother had this really great foundation of just a lot of spiritual practice, a lot of healing, a lot of chakra aligning and feeling a sense of peace, even though she was absent, it was still in my DNA to be attracted to spiritual teachers. When I came home at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I wasn't watching TRL like my friends. I was watching Oprah, and she had spiritual teachers on there every single day, just kind of opening my mind up for what is possible when we're talking about hope, belief, peace, joy. So I had this awareness inside of me. She had a guest on her show, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know this man, Michael Bernard Beckwith. And he said something to me, not to me, to the audience that really kind of changed my life in a way. And still does. When I need clarity on something, I always go back to this quote. He says, behind every problem, there is a question trying to ask itself. Behind every question, there is an answer trying to reveal itself. Behind every answer, there is an action trying to take place. And behind every action, there is a new way of life trying to be born. And just that has changed my life, gave me a roadmap. So the wound is where the light enters. The wound is the problem, okay? What was my problem? My migraines, those debilitating, life-sucking, draining migraines. That was the problem in my very little awareness. Those may be the tree, not the whole forest, right? What is the question? What is the source of this suffering? The answer, apparently, there was stress in my system. Something in my system was dysregulated. Something, my body's wisdom was trying to tell me that there is something in my environment that is causing me stress. The action that I needed was to become more aware of what exactly in the environment is stressing me out. I need to pay more attention to these parts of my life. I need to feel a sense of peace. My intention became peace. My intention became peace. I didn't really understand the stress, where it was, why it was there, how it was cultivated. I didn't know. And I don't need to know. Martin Luther King has this great quote: as long as you can see the first step, you don't need to see the rest of the staircase, right? My first step was awareness. Awareness. Like I said earlier, we become apathetic to our pain and our suffering because there's still life to live. We still have children, maybe not. We still have jobs. We still have families. We still have things that we need to take care of. So a lot of the times we and how we feel get put on the back burner, but how we feel creates our actions, thoughts, feelings, actions. When you don't understand your actions, you've got to backtrack. What are these beliefs? How am I feeling? What's going on in here? The awareness. I read a lot of self-development books in this time of this performative nature that I had going on when I was trying to be the fittest, the smartest, the mom that had it all. I was trying to develop a career in behavioral therapy, which I had been doing. I was in a master's program. I was working out every morning. I was training as if I was running a marathon every day. For what, girl? I don't know. I just wanted to feel a sense of worth. And in that community online, you got it if you were performing in that way. It was like a really toxic system that just kind of kept reinforcing itself. The thinner I would get, even though unhealthy, I would get positively reinforced for my very thin, too thin of a body for my frame. So without awareness, just listening to this will convince you that you're doing something right. But we are the only ones that know what's right for us. And this, me and me, completely disconnected at the time. No mind body integration. My body was trying to tell me something with these migraines. It was saying, there is stress here, there is an issue here, and you need to be here to help me. Check in, check in, check in. And I wasn't there. It's like creating a system for yourself that will make you sick without awareness. We live in systems of very harmful systems. There's systems of racism, of poverty, of capitalism that is actually bad for us. There's all kinds of systems that we live in. And when we're not aware of those systems, we kind of start, and how they affect us, we have no control. We're just being affected. We kind of take on those things as our own, and it affects our sense of self-worth. Um, so every self-development book that I've ever read really harps on the importance of a morning routine. So that was pretty solid for me. Esther Hicks, she's law of attraction woman, um, says that a morning routine is like creating the trajectory of your day, right? Priming your pump, as she calls it. Um, you're embedding safety and security in your day because you have a home base. You start the day off feeling good, right? So my goal became to have a practice every morning where I was meditating, I was exercising, but not exercising in this performative way, just moving my body just to move my body. They say that our trauma lives in the tissue and our fascia, and when we release it and we stretch, that actually releases trauma in our body. I read these things in these books. I was like, cool, I'm going to do yoga. I heard meditating is great for you. I heard journaling is great for you. I heard all these things are great for you to decrease your stress. And so I was all about it. So my morning routine stopped being so focused on how many carbs and proteins that I ate, or how fast and how long I ran, or how much weight I was lifting and what I looked like in my leggings, and became more about my intention of being in peace at as much as possible throughout the day. Like we talked about, life is up and down. And so this morning routine actually did change my life. Uh, this was the beginning of the end of my 17-year-long partnership with the father of my 3 children. He would joke, "Why are you getting up so early in the morning? And why are you working out so hard? You trying to build the strength to leave me?" But actually turns out, yes. When I looked at my life mindfully, mindfulness isn't just paying regular attention. Mindfulness is paying attention on purpose, with openness, curiosity, and a willingness to be with what is, in kindness and compassion for yourself and others. So it's a practice. It could be meditation, but it also is a way of being. Um, when I looked at my life in this way, through this lens, and I was willing to really see what was there, my life started to change. I realized that actually my life was an exact replica of my mother's life. I had 3 children. I was in a relationship that had an imbalance of power, financial power, which in a relationship can mean everything, right? I was dominated by the temperament of my partner, a wounded man with kind of an outrageous sense of entitlement, for simply just being the man of the house. And before I continue any further, I want to say something about my partner, is that he is my spiritual partner. He has been the best teacher in my life. And there's no animosity anymore. There's no emotional reactivity anymore, because I did my work healing. And his unhealed self isn't a reflection of who he is. He is love. And I like to see him that way, even though we've had ups and downs. And if I didn't have this practice, there would be a lot of anger and resentment inside of me. which is poison. Self-care is learning to do this, decreasing this emotional reactivity. So you're in the space with people and you're regulated. Um, our family unit, like I was telling you earlier, it looked great. It looked healthy and loving. My kids had a mom, she was fit, they had good lunches. We got the blue house with the white picket fence. But inside of the fence, inside of that blue home, we were on a roller coaster, an emotional roller coaster that was not in control by me or the children or the dog. It was in control by one person, just like my father. My partner was really conditioned to protect his masculinity by not allowing himself to be vulnerable. He found value in the attention that he received for outside things, attention from other women. He felt really validated by the amount of money that he can make. It was really, that's where he got his sense of self worth. And if anything poked at this fragile male ego, we would all have to pay. Anger, yelling, screaming, throwing things, really very reactive. This ego, very fragile. And when you have kids and you're a woman that has opinions, we were hitting the ego. It was getting poked. When you poke a bear, it bites, right? It was interacting with this energy for so long that gave me so much grief, and I didn't even recognize it. I just wanted the picture, the house, the kids, the picket fence, the looks. I wasn't really concerned about how all of those things felt. Um, just like my mother, this replica, another another just odd thing is she has 3 children. I have 3 children. I am the middle child. My middle child, also born on the same exact day as me. I'm not kidding. My life was a replica of my mother's. I was financially insecure. It's what kept me in this relationship. Growing up with the poverty consequences of my mother's only choice of leaving my abusive father, I was traumatized by that experience of growing up poor. I grew up in majority white spaces. I'm Black and Japanese. Majority white spaces, always kind of feeling a sense of othered. And when you throw poverty in the mix and you don't have the same clothes as everybody, your hair looks different than everybody. The things that you can do looks different. Nobody was taking me to my basketball games. I was just floating around with everybody else. The sense of shame and unworthiness that was developed in those years growing up poor, I kept with me the whole time. And I let the people in my life reflect my sense of unworthiness. In my mind at the time, my then partner was the biggest roadblock, him and this money thing. He had money, I didn't have money. I didn't want to grow up. I didn't want to be poor. I didn't want my kids to go through what I went through before. I was stuck in this conundrum. How do I leave without really leaving? How can I leave and still feel safe? It was always this battling, of what to do, what to do. And I'm here to tell you that we don't have to make big choices like that. We don't, it's not all or nothing. It's this duality, good or bad, that we're operating in that can cause a lot of harm. A mindset can shift things gradually, slowly. Like grief is a process. When anything ends, there's grief. When somebody dies, we don't tell them you do like get over it quickly. We know better now. Everybody experiences differently. Leaving a relationship is the same way, even if it sucks. There's grief involved, and that takes time. And if you are making choices, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It could be slow. It could be slow. We don't have to rush. There's no right or wrong way to do this. So my morning routine became my self-preservation routine. I got really well. I had my vibe was high, as they say. I was journaling. I had gratitude. I exercised. I felt great. Exercise in a not performative way, just like moving around a little bit. You know what I'm saying? And my intention was peace. And my only job was to stay in alignment with that. And so I started to take my mindfulness practice to the next level. So I was aware and connected to how I was feeling. So not only what I was thinking, which then creates emotions and then actions, I was connected, integrated. All of it mattered, not just what you saw, not just what I thought, but actually how it felt. And so instead of just meditating on a cushion, I took my mindfulness practice and made it my life. Thich Nhat Hanh says that meditation could be in every moment. And we talked earlier about the qualities of mindfulness, paying attention on purpose with openness, curiosity, and a willingness to be with what is, with kindness for yourself and compassion for yourself and others. So I adopted this attitude. I changed my lenses. Instead of that performative lens, I want it to look this way. It became, I want it to feel this way. I want it to feel peaceful. And how do I interact with life in a way that gives me peace? I couldn't just sit there and get peace on the cushion. I had to take this practice into real life. And so there are attitudes of mindfulness. There's non judging, there's acceptance, there's patience, beginner's mind, trust, curiosity, generosity, letting go, non striving, and my favorite is, and I think I already mentioned it, is curiosity, just questioning, what is this? And so let's talk about non-judging. The reality is that when you have as a human, no matter how good you are, we're filled with judgments. We have judgments about everything. I like that. I don't like this. I don't want this. I want this. And so we judge others, we judge situations, and more often than not, we're judging people with these old lenses, not our new lenses, on our old limiting beliefs. There's not a lot of room for growth in judgment. The opposite of judgment is wisdom. And that's just meaning you're learning your lesson and there's no reactivity, you know, no anger, none of that. It's wisdom. Um, we also acceptance. So there's non-judging and there's acceptance. And acceptance is hard for a lot of people because acceptance kind of feels like you're quitting. But I had to accept my relationship for what it was before I could move forward. I would have to be brave enough to say, this is a toxic relationship that's making me physically sick. Without accepting that, recognizing it, owning it, there was no moving forward. Acceptance is courage. It's the courage to be real, because when you're real, then you have to do something about it. So we don't like to keep it real because we just like to be in our comfort, right? And comfort, even though it might be toxic, is what we know. It's easy for our brains. New is challenging, like try to do a puzzle, try to do anything new. It's uncomfortable. And our body's wisdom, we just want comfort, right? We just want comfort. I just want to chill, right? So acceptance is about courage, because when you see something, you got to change it. Patience, it's fundamental in mindfulness. The qualities that are symptomatic of practice don't come in a day, right? I'm practicing mindfulness meditation. I want to be calm. Okay, you're not going to be calm forever, maybe moments, right? things, and especially things that are worth it, take patience to develop. You need patience to develop those things. It's something that unfolds when you're patient in your practice, you become patient with others, when you're patient with life. Like, I wanted to leave now. This is making me sick now. But also, being out there with no money, 3 kids would make me sick too, right? Patience, patience with this unfolding, this building of courage, putting all the right things in order for yourself, and then letting the universe fill in the rest. We talk about trust. There's so many things that are happening perfectly right now. We're breathing perfectly. Hopefully, I hopefully, right? Your heart is beating. There's air. There's a sky. There's sun. We could trust in these things. So when we are leaning in to the ways that we are living, there's actually a lot of trust there. Um, just like we could trust that, the grass is going to grow, with the right conditions, we could trust ourselves that if we create the right conditions for ourselves, that we will be well, that we can transform a difficult situation into a situation that's very life-giving. Another way that we have to do this is another quality of mindfulness, another attitude, and it's beginner's mind. Like I said, we are really conditioned here. And so looking at everything with these new glasses on, curious as if it's the first time you're witnessing it, your mind expands. You're not so constricted anymore. You're allowing for more possibilities. I'm in an awful relationship. I'm stuck. Beginner's mind. Well, what does stuck mean? Well, why are you in it? Just opening, expanding on this, you let more things into your life, into possibility when you aren't so sure about what's going to happen. There's a really beautiful attractiveness to people who approach things in this manner. When you get someone new at work and they act like they know everything, it's oof, you know? You don't wanna approach life like that. We don't know everything. We actually know very little, So, being a student all the time is great. Another attitude is non-striving. And John Kabat-Zinn says, like, it's the biggest paradox in, meditation is that by doing nothing, you could fix a lot of problems. Um, there's natural consequences. We don't have to strive, right? If our intentions are good, my intentions are peace, and I'm going to act in peace. I don't have to strive for it. I'm acting in that way, and the result consequence will be peace. So I don't need to strive every day. It just is what it is. I'm not doing peace. I am peace, regulated, right? And this ability to let go, you know, um, when we're paying attention to our experience, we really grasp on things, um, for a sense of protection, for a sense of comfort, for safety. And sometimes we grasp so hard that we're holding on to things that are no longer serving us. So the ability to hold things just lightly, if it comes, it comes. And if it's gotta go, it's gotta go. Right. And so the ability to just hold things in this lightness is another quality of practice that you will cultivate over time. Gratitude has been shown, obviously, that journaling that I was doing in the morning, just refocusing my attention, putting my focus on everything that I could be grateful for, on everything that's actually working perfectly fine, instead of putting my attention and focus on the things that were not working. When you change your focus, whatever you focus on grows. I want more peace. I want more love. I want more calm. And that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm practicing, and it grows. So, my gratitude as I'm journaling it, my gratitude is growing. And curiosity, changing the questions that I ask, Hey, what if everything goes right? What if I keep doing this and I end up in a better situation? Why are these things important? Just questioning everything, and knowing that you're the one that comes up with the answers to those things and nobody else. We have this one life to live. We want it to be peaceful, filled with joy and happiness. And if those are your intentions and you have a mindfulness mindset where you're paying attention on purpose, open, curious, loving, kind, and compassionate, you will get there. You'll get to wherever you want to go. They say, mindfulness or life is like the ocean. It's chaotic, it's rough, it's bumpy, it's crashing, it's all of these things. But mindfulness is learning to surf the waves. Mindfulness is learning to be in right relationship. We're not controlling this. We have none, right? But what we do have is the quality of our focus, the quality of the attention, all of this, the things that we do have control over will change your life, transform your life, learning to be in right relationship with your life. So the wound is where the light enters. Wherever that is in your life, if you follow, it's like a map. When you follow the root of your suffering and you get to the root, the cause, then, and you accept it, then you have the power to change it and transform it into whatever is for you, not for anybody else. So that is how a mindfulness mindset can transform your life. And the wound is where the light enters. Thank you for letting me speak and tell my story.